Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're going to have a bit of a mix of a Fairground Friday and a Farm Friday because I'm fed up of having this area on the windowsill, not completed, and having to stretch over all this table to do any amendments. So what I'm going to do, I hope, is Operation Windowsill today, getting rid of this table temporarily so I can gain proper access and really sort it all out and have this Ferris wheel in position, as well as the farmer's field completed. Yes, so the farmer's field, we did start another time, and that was this sort of raised brown area of farmer's field that's going to be having all of the wheat stalks that I've been avidly collecting the parts for over the last couple of weeks, and that has really delayed everything in this area, including installing the start of what will be the fairground, sort of coming in from this side and filling two tables here and over here. And just while I'm looking at the farm, I did turn around the weather vane, so it's actually pointing into the wind rather than away from it. So thanks very much for that top tip. Yeah, so really all I have to do is fill in that space, and I'm actually considering maybe flipping the combine harvester itself 180 degrees just so it's facing the opposite direction, and seeing if that has a slightly better view from the rest of the Lego room. I don't really know. So that might seem like a very small task, that first half, but it does involve an absolute raft of pieces. We've got over 300 bar pieces, over 300 of these. And although it doesn't look like it, I'm a little concerned, about 300 of these as well. And they'll make the wheat field collectively all the right height, I hope, so it's not too tall on a minifigure, because they are 4 long bar pieces. And I don't want this wheat to be sort of towering above people, and that's why I'm having them recessed in these 1x1 round bricks. And while I'm there, I'm going to play around with the fruit trees, because I've got some lime round tiles instead of the pink ones we got there, and I've got a few bricks and plates there as well in brown, in order to sort of redo the bit that's underneath here that's using a lot of smaller bricks at the moment. And then I've got these base plates in order to fill the rest of the window ledge on, and then I'm going to have to basically lift this ride off its actual normal plates along the back, so it's on the base plates, and then is sort of hanging off that window ledge, and then is supported, maybe temporarily, but nonetheless supported from the table layer as well. So it will probably look very similar to this view when it's all done, but I think there's going to be a lot of work to get it there. So while I'm here as well, you'll have noticed I've got a vehicle out, and this is the vehicle of the week, and it's just the wonderful Lego van that comes with set 60097, City Square. And I've just done one amendment to this, and that's just moving the 1x6x5 panel piece with a sticker on it into the middle of the side of the truck, because you actually get it with a 1x2x5 brick, so basically on each side, so the logo isn't centralized. So all I've done is got some 1x1x5 bricks in yellow, so it looks a bit better in my opinion. But anyway, there's the driver in there, and I'll place that on the streets of Brick Nottingham. Right, so I've moved a lot of the rides that are all on here over there, and I just need to lift this one out of its current position, and I'm going to actually try and lift this entire table on top of this one temporarily, just so I can get proper access and don't have to sort of crawl around the floor every time I need a piece that isn't close at hand. Well, removing that table was actually a lot easier than I'd have first thought, actually. And I don't usually give bedoings for suggestions to move tables in slightly different ways, but in this case that was a viewer suggestion, so thanks for that. It's a lot easier than crawling under things while it's got nothing on it. So here is what we did before, and I've just been playing with it a little bit, turning it around and so on, and I think actually I kind of agree with my newer idea of having the whole thing reversed. So the bit that has just been harvested is kind of in the extreme corner, and the end of that very first stripe is yet to be done. And for those of you who are relatively new to the channel, this is the facade of a field. So I'm thinking this field goes off way, way, way in that direction, and way, way, way in that direction as well. And just the walls of the Lego room are cutting it off. So this would be the equivalent of it taking the very last bit of the first stripe, before sort of turning around to do the second stripe as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to pull up virtually everything I did before. I'll leave the edging and kind of flip it round because what we're going to do is have these sort of two long, two wide bit along the entire edge, which is going to represent that second stripe that we haven't yet started. And then I'm going to have this totally filled in with corn or wheat. We call it corn in the UK, even though it is wheat. And the kind of flat area that has been done over here. So I'll get on with that. All right, so there's my field flipped round with a solid bit at the back, the row down the side for the second stripe, and that square is going to be completely filled with wheat. So if I just plonk this guy on here, it'll be about there. And I think that'll be a good view. We would see the front of the blades. That's the thing that I was most keen on, showing the fronts of the combine harvester, because that's the most characteristic part of it, of course. And then we can see a nice square of that before we have the big Ferris wheel over here. So I think that'll be really good. So I'm going to have to get on with making a huge amount of wheat in a wheat factory, and I'll see if I can make the first one one-handed. So the theory is that I get one of these bar pieces, one of these Technic pieces on top of it, and I have it just almost to the end. Probably a little bit more than that. It's a bit of a stiff one. So then it looks like that. So that's kind of the ear of the wheat at the top. And then the thinking is that it goes into one of these round bricks and is very recessed. So then it is more the right height when it's actually in the field, because otherwise it'd be the most tall wheat you ever did see. So I think en masse that should look really interesting. So I think you'll agree the height is about right, and that's the entire reason for kind of stepping up and raising this field. So there is one piece of wheat, and now we've just got that many more to make. Ugh. And the first stripe is in. I think it's looking pretty good. I'm doing a little shot now just because I'm going to have to start filling this in, and probably because I'm right-handed, filling it in from this corner that way, otherwise it's really hard to do. So I thought I'd show you it with just that strip there. And if we put in our harvester, that will pretty much be the scene. And that's looking pretty good already, if you ask me. Yeah, that looks great. It really does look like wheat, doesn't it? So I'm very happy with that, because when you spend this much on pieces and you don't really know how it's going to turn out, you perhaps worry a little bit, because these were probably about 4 or 5p, about 2p, 3p maybe. So all in all, an individual stalk costs about 10 pence. But because we need about 300 of them, that makes it a £30 wheat field. So I really don't want to be making something that looks rubbish with parts that I can't really use that readily elsewhere. But I think you'll agree that already that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to continue on with that. And we'll have to have some kind of being bent and cut when it gets right up to the blade as well. Cool. Golly, this is boring. Doing the same thing again and again, over 300 times to be precise. But you can see the effect building up, and I think it's looking really good. And I also moved this minifigure here just so you could see the scale. So the wheat is actually going up to sort of, well, chest height, I suppose, which arguably makes it a bit too tall as it is. But any taller would have been really ridiculous. So I think that is a good compromise. And I've done a few bits of wheat just lying down there. So that'll be underneath the blades of the harvester. And that's just to create a bit of an effect, because I'm trying to angle these a bit and they're just not cooperating really. So I tried different ideas, like having one of these shoe pieces with 4 in with that sort of curved angle at the bottom, so it could kind of be tipping towards it. But to be honest, it just falls about. It's not strong enough to maintain one position. So I've gone back to the drawing board, and what I've decided to do is actually put some bits of corn being chopped in amongst the blades. So this harvester automatically turns the blades, and you can see if we just go head on, that I've got some in the middle there. Now, unfortunately, the gap is only wide enough to take one of these 4 long bar pieces in the middle. So I'll have the lying down ones kind of through the gaps there and through the gaps there. But I think it's a good enough effect when I put this in position very carefully, right up against everything I've done. Then that is the effect, and you can kind of see bits of corn all through the blades there, including those ones flying in the air, getting chopped up and the good bit kept. And I could do some stubble out of the back, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough pieces. Now I do have enough round 1x1 brown bricks, because I've only got that much space left and I've got 2 full bags. But I'm a bit worried on the wheat itself, because I've gone through half of those, which presumably means I've gone through half of those. And we've still got quite an area to cover. Now, I appreciate I have done a strip down there and a few lying down in the blades and so on. And I've even got a few here that I haven't positioned. But when I calculated this, it was supposed to be enough. But then maybe when I had it flipped the other way around, I started at a slightly different place. So, yeah, well, we'll see. But I'm going to take a break now, because doing all of these little bits of wheat is really quite tedious. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the effect, at least, especially the pieces flying around. Right, so before I go back to the field and continue with that, I'm just going to do some work on the orchard. Reach through very carefully. Now, when I did this, I used the old school trees to represent fruit trees and just jammed some round tiles in between the sort of tines there of the plant, and only on one side as well, because I just didn't have many of them at all in the same colour. And I used pink just because they're the only ones that had, well, any number of at all. But now I've got quite a few more lime tiles to replace them with, so I thought they could be apples or something like that. And I've also got some olive ones and some nougat ones to represent bad apples that are either in the tree still or fallen off around the base, and I thought that might be an interesting effect. So I'm going to do a bit of a switcheroo and put them in place. There, I think that looks a lot better, a lot more like a genuine orchard with some fruit you might actually recognise, as opposed to sort of pink blobs that look a bit more like tree blossom really. And I'll be able to use those pink tiles that I took off for blossom, but it also looks better with them having a few more pieces in the trees and a few on the floor, including the sort of brown ones. I decided not to use the olive tiles, I'll save them for something else, but yeah, I think that's good. It still stands out from a distance, but it's just less pinky, so I like that. So break over, trees done, back to the field. Big yawn, still got 3 or 4 stripes to go, but it is filling up and starting to look pretty good en masse. I'm a little bit worried that I don't have enough. Do we think that's enough? I'm not sure it is. Yeah. Now, if it isn't, what I'm thinking I might do is just take one of these stripes out. What I mean by that is not one sort of on the outside, but like one in the body, just sort of about here, for example. Because I think you get those sort of lines in wheat fields when, I imagine it's from when they're sown, or maybe it's from where the tractor drives when it goes over them to do whatever it does. So you end up with kind of like a man-made kind of line that's just in the middle of a great big block like this. So that might actually even improve matters. But yeah, I'll keep on going. Well, firstly, the good news, there were enough. So that's going right up to a nice straight edge. I think that'll make it catch the eye a bit more when it's got a really sort of straight corner like that. And I had actually quite a few left. So I'd obviously ordered sort of about half a dozen too many, which is always good practice, just in case things don't pan out as you want. So I've laid a few knocked over there, with mainly them being underneath the blades. And I've even managed to get 2 more kind of standing up in round bricks there, just by tessellating different pieces into different shapes. So I can kind of lower the harvester that has some attached to its blade like we did earlier, sort of like, get it right, like that. Oh, so it's very snug, but you can see there's some sort of in the process of being cut, some in the process of being thrown around, and some, just a little bit, that's been trampled underfoot or under wheel, and a couple of bits of stubble there, just because they're the only two I had in that colour. But I think you'll agree that that is looking rather fantastic. Looks even better from a lower angle, I think. And that's kind of a Lego achievement ticked, done, achieved, because I always wanted actually to have a farm with a wheat field with a harvester in it. So that's kind of a personal achievement, one of many achieved during the progress of Brick Nottingham. Right, so Operation Windowsill, first half is complete, I think. So now I want to turn my attention to this half of the windowsill, which I'm going to move from normal green base plates to bright green base plates. So there's going to be room for 1.5 of them. So if I'm going to get the Ferris wheel onto that position, it's probably going to have to be quite snug up to this, because the carousel can't hit against this wall because it will be right up on the ledge. And so it's probably going to be quite overhanging of the field, maybe not very realistic, but we do like a good level of density in the city after all. So I'm going to have to peel the back of the Ferris wheel build off its normal plates to put it on base plates at the back, because I want it all on one level there, and then we can worry about the front afterwards. And I better put the table back, I suppose, somewhere in the middle of all that procedure. Right, but that could be the farm complete. Now the second stage of Operation Window Ledge is to get this Ferris wheel onto this space here, and I'm actually going to have to overlap it by 8 studs onto this base plate here, just so there's enough room for all the gondolas to go by without hitting this wall. Now it comes on a rather odd mixture of plates, 16 by 16s, 8 by 16s, and all sorts of small ones as well. I mean, those are just the ones I've taken off so far over there, and they're arranged in a bit of a funny pattern. So one of the things I'm going to have to do is kind of peel this one off, which I'm going to keep, but move it just that 4 studs forward so it's in line with the rest of these. So it'll be those 3 sections unchanged, but all of the rest very carefully peeled off from underneath and replaced with this 32 by 32 and this 16 by 32. And then I think it will overhang a little bit on that corner, and that will go onto this base plate, and then the whole thing will be incredibly perilous, kind of perched on here. So I won't put it finally there until I've got this table back in place that's above my head. And then we can put it all in place, and I'll probably just have to prop it up for today, because all of this is taking quite a long time. Maybe isn't the most exciting video, but it's going to look great when it's done, and I won't be able to reach it at all later. So yeah, I'll continue with carefully peeling all of this off the bottom of the ride. Now it is a bit of a mess at the moment, and that's because I'm midway through transferring it onto these base plates rather than just plates, and that overhang is going to fit on the one on the windowsill already. But now I've turned my attention, while I've got it all sort of kind of in bits, to powering it. I am going to actually have this ride powered by a motor above the surface rather than in the cavity underneath my fairground, purely because I really don't think we're going to see this, and it's going to be very difficult to recess when, well, we've got the solid window ledge underneath what will be here when it's in place. So instead, I've kind of got this cable, and I'm going to hide it as much as possible out of sight, and then I'm going to attach it to an extension cable, which is another of the reasons why I'm using power functions, because I can't use powered up because I'll be filming on my phone, and I can't have a device for every single ride because I'm going to have far too many. Also, I'm using power functions because I use the rechargeable battery boxes, But that cable you can see is going all the way through to the front over there, and that will be able to link up with, well, the rest of my system really, so I can have more than one ride powered by each battery box. So yeah, so basically all it is a bit of threading this through all of the ride so it can kind of pop out of the front. So when it comes to being in place here, the wire sort of goes from the motor that will be about there, kind of on top of the surface, and then goes into the cavity, which will obviously start around here. So if you followed all that, you've done very well. But I'm going to continue on with that, and then hopefully we'll get it running today. All back together again. I've hidden most of the wire, so when you look through that gap towards the back, you can kind of see the motor obviously, but you can't see too much workings. And these rides in real life would have workings above ground, obviously, because they're not going to excavate underground just to hide it all like I am. So now we've just got the wire kind of peeking out the front there, but that will be over a cavity, so it won't have a lump like it does at the moment. And I actually managed to get the connection not underneath that grating bit, but right underneath where the man is really. So that's really good. So I've got lots of cable left to link up with the rest of things. So now it can be powered from quite a long way away. Very good. One more thing to mention. I have actually changed some of my gondolas to red, as you may have noticed. When it comes, it just has the green, the yellow, and the purple. And I kind of thought that looked a bit drab, really. So what I decided to do was just make some of them red. So there's 12 in total. So rather than having 3 colours 4 ways, I've got 4 colours 3 ways. So to do that, you just need to buy some red pieces for 3 gondolas, which means you need 3 of the 6x6 dish piece, and each of them's got 8 of these little sort of, well, whatever they're called. So you'd need 24 of those in total. So it's not a particularly difficult change to make, but I think one that really does brighten it up. Right, so I could put this in place over here, but I think 3/4 of it would be hanging off the front, and therefore it wouldn't really work. So what I'm going to do is put the table back and then put it in position, and then hopefully we'll have Operation Window Ledge complete. Okay, so the table is back in its place. The field still done, uninterrupted. This table needs lowering as well, but I'll do them one at a time. I'll probably do that next time. They've just gone down about that much. And I've done it quite exactly because I need, on the lower level, a base plate and 3 bricks to be exactly the same as ground level. So I've made this kind of contraption. So we've got the sort of new ground, the underground, the 3 bricks in between, and when one is joined up to the other, they'll be completely level, and you won't be able to tell that there's any sort of ground level change at all. So that's what that is. I've just tidied up the end wall of my subway, so you can see those steps really do go off into nothing now, into darkness, and I'll tidy up this wall and this whole sort of connection in due course. But this is where the table is going to stay, and I just need to push that back into its place, and it's clearly going to be perching over that table a bit, so I'm going to need some sort of temporary supports just to hold up the front, I think. My goodness, I think I've pulled something putting that in place. My tendon down the back of my calf feels a bit sore now. My back's a bit tired after all this lifting and bending and stretching and all the rest of it. But I do think that it's looking pretty good. We've got our first ride in the fairground, which is powered as well from a cable that can reach a very long way away as well in the cavity. And there we go, that's that going around, looking rather fantastic. It must be touching there, it's making each of them tip a little bit. I'll sort that out. But now we can see the cavity for the first time. These are just temporary props, by the way, but you get the idea that it's going to be supported. This one a bit higher than 3 bricks because of course it's on the window ledge, so there's pretty much an extra brick, so it's about 4 bricks and a plate or something like that here. But that's where all the wiring is going to go, so we won't see any of it. And it's not too close to the field, I think. I will have to extend this fence line around here somewhere, but I've got plenty of room to do that, and for some crowds and maybe even some small stalls or candy floss cellar or something like that. So it's looking pretty good if you ask me. One movable ride, which I'll turn off due to the noise, with all of its red gondolas as well, which I think looks absolutely great. It's really nice and tall at the back there, isn't it? So the white blind kind of sets it off really well. And then what we spent most of the time and most of the money this time doing is the wonderful field of wheat. And I think that looks great. It looks even better from a lower angle, doesn't it? It's exactly the right height. So I think I was right in recessing it in those 1x1 round bricks. And then last but not least, we just upgraded the orchard to have some lime green fruit in it, which are probably apples, and some fallen fruit as well. I might even get some pickers with baskets in there in due course. And I'm going to change all of these supports for the UFO in due course. I just haven't been able to get the right ones so far. And the minis as well. This is just a temporary home for them, charging across the fields just so they're in use. I'm going to do something a lot more fun with them. And this still works, and the train still goes past the table in this position and all the rest. And as I said earlier, I'll tidy that out, edge up in due course. But I'm really happy with that. I think Project Window Ledge has been a success, and there's still plenty of room around it to add a lot more detail, so I'm really happy with it. So hopefully you get an idea of how large this fairground's going to be, with all this space all around here. Going to be absolutely jam-packed full of rides. I think it's going to be fantastic. But do let me know what you think of today's stuff, being the Ferris wheel, of course, and its positioning, the field and the orchard. I very much appreciate your comments and any ideas for additional things, including the space along this sort of gap here, and probably even here as well. Cool. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. GBC is still up on LEGO Ideas if you want to support that. The link is in the description. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, well, I think we'll be doing the second part of the Ferrari Tower on Monday, and then a brick haul, and then we'll be back to the fairground next Friday for some more fairground action. Cool. See you then.